Ray and I had a little talk about the Bears on the other show. We had a little talk about the Pats. I do want to run through a quick list of honorable mentions before we get to the power rankings. The Bengals, I understand why they're not on the list because, man, that defense is bad, and they're not winning shit with a defense like that, especially in a division with the Steelers and the Ravens.
That offense is fun again.
It's not, but that offense is a hell of a lot to watch. I mean, Ray, you were up in the fantasy football group chat talking about how you were happy you didn't trade Chase. Genius, because I mean that was a real vintage Jamar Chase game. You know, he was just all over the highlights the other day, and it was always just him in space. How did you let him get that open? Just making Jamar Chase like plays, and I'm glad for that. I'm glad that offense is back and burning again.
People really overreacted and thought that he was going to be trash, and I'm like, yo, what does he prove? What has he shown you since he got to the league to show that he was going to fall off? Why? Because he missed training camp, that he was gonna suck. Are you crazy? Like this man has been a baller from day one.
Do wide receivers even really fall off when they're like being divas? Like, does that even really happen? Like, I feel like they usually just come back and fucking still show out. You know what I mean? Like, as good as
for the most part,
especially because he didn't get his money.
This wasn't. It still hasn't error. It still hasn't got paid, right? But my thing is, Higgins is gone. Like whenever, like unless they're not going to get that, so he's gone next year.
What is happening there? Like he's playing weird.
Oh, they weren't going to pay both of apparently. Well, I mean,
Higgins
whatever.
Played pretty good these past games.
It seems like they're putting.
I think that's a mistake, though. I think it's a mistake.
But it seems like I agree. I do think T. Higgins is like one of the best number twos in the league, if not. Yeah, he's one of the best number twos in the league. Probably top 5, like second option. I wouldn't. I don't know if I would love having him as a wide receiver 1, but. It depends on the situation you're in, I guess. But it does seem like those guys do know how to build an offense over there. It does seem like they went out in the offseason and put in some more gadgety weapons. They got that guy, his name's like Hall or something. He's got a really short name. It's like he's that tight end. He's like 9 feet tall. He's fucking enormous. They've got a committee in the backfield that's with Moss and what's the other kid's name? 30 and 31. Moss and Brown, Chase Brown. And they're looking good back there, you know, like that looks like a backfield that doesn't 100% miss Mixon, and it seems like they're kind of being able to sort of plug and play stuff down there in Cincinnati, and it's just the fact that they seem to have rostered their defense up with a bunch of guys that have never watched a game of football. That can't be true, right? There has to be something in the defensive coordinator's side of the ball that's letting up 30+ points a game.
Well, they lost Jesse Bates.
They've choked 2 games away too. They had that ball.
Yeah, that as well.
But their defense is bad. Their defense is bad. Like, it's bad.
No, it is. I'm saying when you lose Jesse Bates, and you're basically relying on, I think Trey Hendrickson, like who was really a stud. Like, dude is a beast.
One other guy in the
D-line can't do it.
Forget his name.
Yeah. Oh no, Hendrickson. That's he's
someone else too.
Oh, got you. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, obviously, like 2 guys weren't going to be enough to make the defense somewhat formidable. And once again, you're in a division that's very strong, like you just mentioned, DK. So, they're in trouble. And once again, we know the Bengals historically in our lifetimes to not be a team that was going to be a perennial contender. You know, we grew up with the John Kitna, Kajana Carter, Achilles Smith.
Kitna. Hell of a fucking call out there.
Peter Warwick, early TJ Hushmanzada. Who championship, right? So we grew up with that era. So we know when it's like to see a bad version of the Bengals. And you know, once again, if they
you're right, it's pretty Bengalsy. It's been pretty good. This is them being pretty Bengalsy since like the 2000, early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you know, so somebody will appreciate those name references when this drops. But
I do.
I appreciate every one of them.
I know you know that already.
Yeah, you know, so it's just like I just think they're in trouble if they don't right the ship, you know, sooner rather than later. Because like I said, they're talented, but once again, if you have that many holes defensively, ultimately you're going to bottom out to be a 10-7, maybe 9-8 type of team.
think they'd be lucky to get to 10-7.
agree.
10-7 is a hell of a season. Start up 1-4.
They got good offensively though. That they can, you know what I'm saying?
But that's the thing. I still like having them on the TV every week. If you're a fantasy owner or one of their players on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know if you do that thing where you play one defensive player or whatever. Don't have it be a Bengal, but every other position, you should go get yourself a Bengal. It's except for T. Higgins apparently this year for whatever reason. But like I said, it seems like they're gadgeting around. Honorable mentions. I had the Falcons, but we actually ended up putting them at 10. The Saints, I just have them here because we've been talking about them. But Bobby, are you ready to admit that the Saints are the Saints? And I was right.
You're right.
And Derek Carr is still going to turn back into a pumpkin at some point, right? Are we there? Divisional game against the Bucs, who are also on the honorable mention list. Ray and I touched on this very, very briefly yesterday. I do have still a little bit of a bugaboo thinking that the Bucs are going to be good because I just see them as the same team that Tom Brady left. And my brain doesn't really compute with the idea that you're going to plug Baker Mayfield in where Tom Brady was, and it's going to work with Baker Mayfield, but not with Tom Brady. Like something's going to collapse there, in my opinion. It's kind of working. I mean, they just lost a game. You know what I mean? They lost a game where their defense did not look very good. Tom Brady could probably go in there and put up 30 points with that Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was a great game, but you'd see him fucking screaming at people on the sidelines because awesome game. But you'd see him screaming at people on the sidelines because they fucking coughed up 38 points. You know, it's like it's serious. You know, I think there's flaws in that team, and I think that they're the team that has. I mean, they have great skill players. I can't fault that. And I said that in the offseason, our prediction show, we should bump them up a few games because they do have guys that are definitely frisky on the offensive side and more than frisky on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't want to be disrespectful to those guys. And I don't think Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. He's not Gardner Minshew, but I just don't know if he's going to take a team to the promised land that Tom Brady couldn't. That doesn't really compute.
He did. It's just, they just, obviously defensively they got, like you said, they got worse in the seasons after they won his first year there. But
I mean it in the sense of when Brady doesn't win, it's a story. You know what I mean?
Correct. But I do think, I wonder if now with Devin White being released by Philadelphia, he didn't play a snap for them. Devin White obviously was on that championship team. He was a leader on that defense, when they won. I wonder if they give him a call and say, hey, how do you feel about returning back here? They need it, obviously. They need all the help they can get defensively.
Fell off a cliff fast.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he was injured or whatever, but I said he didn't play a down for Philadelphia, so I don't know what that story was there. Only the locker room knows. But once again, if I'm Tampa and it's you want to bring back someone with familiarity, someone that was a leader in that locker room, it's at least a conversation. Once again, it doesn't have to happen, but I think they should at least give him a call and say, hey, how do you feel about coming back here? We plug you right back into where you were, and we just go ahead and try to win as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be super, super down on them, and it's not necessarily even you guys. It's just the kind of conversation in the national media where I'm like, okay, let's not,
Well, no, they're a twinner. You're not wrong. They're a twinner. They're
super frisky. Super frisky NFC South.
What? Yeah. No, but yeah, like I said, Dave's not wrong though. They're definitely a tweener. I didn't expect this level of resurgence from Baker Mayfield. So the fact that it's okay.
Yeah, nobody did. Nobody did.
Last year
he looked. I think it was when we were surprised. He had
right exactly. Games. So to still see him getting 2-3 touchdown games, throwing for 250, 300, you're like, wait, this is still going on? Is it still happening?
I know if you just started watching football this year, you would think Baker Mayfield is a top 5 QB.
Right, exactly. And once again, I mean, not we meaning on the show, but just in general, some forget that he was the number 1 pick. It wasn't like he was, the 135th pick overall. He was highly touted coming out of Oklahoma.
Oh, no, totally. It's just that he got drafted by the Browns, right? Which we were
they've been QB killers. And,
yeah. I mean, that's where QBs go to. So people had sort of low expectations. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's see Joe Flacco. Or
He
you know,
was
Mark
like, he already
Ingram.
had the gravitas of being Joe Flacco when he got in there. You know what I mean? Like he had
Yeah.
already won a Super Bowl, had an elite postseason. I think that there's
words I never
I
thought
think
would be
that
said.
there's he did that.
I know. Yeah.
He did.
Gravitas.
He had one of the all-time best postseasons ever.
That's true.
Fucking like, and he got absolutely paid. I think that the issue I had with Baker was like, yeah, like, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's just you're gonna have a little less shine on you if you're like a all-American white dude that's gonna be starting QB for the Browns. Like, if that version of that guy was gonna win something, it would have been Brady Quinn. So, and that did not happen. So it's hard for me when there's no like when it's that thing. And then yeah, his stock ticks up slightly when he does those commercials are kind of funny where he lives in the stadium. But then I think there was a year where we probably, what was it? Probably 3 seasons ago where we're like, all right, maybe Baker's going to show up on some teams as a backup. Like maybe he'll be going around the league. He'll be in Mac Jones territory with his cap. And then he shows up in Tampa Bay, a team we also wrote off once Brady left, you know, like, well, okay, well, they don't have Brady anymore. So who gives a shit? And like, yeah, we have to eat crow a little bit on that one. They're definitely better than we thought, but I just don't know if they're as good as people say.
You know what they are? They're Minnesota in 2017, 2018, right? I mean, now, to me, like, listen, for those that say, what? Listen, he's better than not Christian Ponder. Jesus, that's going too far back. He's better than Case Keenum. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm like the names are mixed up the years, but he's better than Case Keenum. So let's be. I want to be clear.
Case Keenum's perennial backup. You know, he's in a commercial about how he's a backup QB. You know,
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I feel like that's where that Minnesota got to the NFC Championship game with Case Keenum. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they're in that, you know, stratosphere. You know, right now where it's like they can win a couple of playoff games, but you know, as far as going to you know, the Super Bowl, like that obviously doesn't feel attainable, but they'll sneak up on you if you think that they're not gonna, if you think it's sweet against them, you might find out otherwise.
Well, guys, we got to talk about the Green Bay Packers because they're not on the power rankings list. Sorry, the area that is the Green Bay. You're not going to get a ton of Green Bay Packers love on this podcast. I'm a Bears fan. Bobby doesn't seem to fancy him too much. Probably NFC rivalry stuff there of them kind of killing the Cowboys a lot early in the postseason in recent memory. I know Mike's always been down on Aaron Rodgers. Ray, you're probably the highest person on the Green Bay Packers on the list as a sort of general rule, and I know that you're a Jordan Love fan for good reason. So, if you wanted to try to alleviate anything on the Packers fan side to try to get them to not hate us right off the bat, even though I'm happy to not have them in the top 10 personally, and I know Bobby is too. How they looking at you?
I think for where they are currently, I think it's justified right now to have them like just right outside of 10. They were going to get spoken about because they've had a decent last couple of weeks since Love has returned, and at the same time, it's like they got to get healthy, right? So, obviously, you know, you got Josh Jacobs, you have, you know, Watson and Reed and, you know, Musgrave and the rest of that crew. They have to get healthy and then they have to catch a rhythm in order to get looked at differently. Once again, the scope and the spotlight was on them a little differently because of how last year ended. So they have taken a step back, you know, if we're being objective, right? They've taken a step back. So they got to earn that back. And it's not something where they're not scrubs, not the worst team in the league. But they're right on that line. So I think if they start to play better, and they build some continuity, then yeah, they may squeeze into that 6 to 9 spot. Unless they just completely just start going crazy and they may you know, raise higher on some people's lists. But yeah, right now, yeah, they deserve to be in that honorable mention, that tween list, because once again, they haven't got that continuity yet. But I think they're a team on the rise if they get healthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're young too, you know, like don't try to blow all your wad at once, Packers fans. Like, you're a young team, you know, your quarterback's young, your skill players are young. I thought they treated the Dobbs situation correctly. It's really weird because he was bitching about his usage and he's like, I think the second highest targeted guy on their team. So I don't really know what the fuck happened there, but it seemed like they got it straightened out. He's probably going to come back and be a weapon for them. It's kind of like they look to me like a team that's needed to get the wheels back on the track a little bit because they got very hard thrown off very hard at the very start of the season. Dumb Friday game in a place that doesn't know how to host a football game with the appropriate level of grass
Right.
and or turf. And you know, I think that they're trying to right the ship, which isn't easy to do in this league. But they've looked pretty decent in more recent memory. They do have the Cardinals next, who are another honorable mention. Haven't quite cracked the top 10 yet, but they've actually looked pretty good. I think Kyler still does Kyler stuff from time to time that would probably frustrate me if I was a week-to-week Cardinals fan. But I think he's looked pretty good. I think he's made some decent plays. Marvin Harrison Jr. is definitely going to be an elite wide receiver in this league for years and years to come. And yeah, they look frisky.